Let's jump right in. Welcome to This Explainer, where we're unpacking a literal microscopic masterpiece of classical literature translated by V.S. Vernon Jones. Usually when we think of classical myths or fables, we picture these massive, sprawling epics. Thousands of pages, endless family trees, decades of war, right? But what if I told you that some of the absolute deepest observations on human nature, and insect nature for that matter, are unbelievably brief? Today, we're breaking down a story that is shockingly short, but man, it carries a psychological weight that has resonated for millennia. 118. That is the exact word count of the story we're looking at today. Literally, 118 words. So, can a story fundamentally change your perspective on revenge, justice, and the whole concept of holding a grudge in just over 100 words? It's kind of hard to wrap your head around, especially in our modern world of endless, bingeable content, but this text strips away every single piece of fluff to deliver a perfectly engineered narrative. There is zero filler here, and that's exactly why we're putting it under the microscope today. And check out this number, 400. This represents the sheer historical weight of what we're analyzing. This children's fable, attributed to Aesop, has been passing down its wisdom since around 400 BCE. Just think about that for a second. For over 2,400 years, human beings have been using this exact 118-word story to teach each other about the truly dangerous mechanics of vengeance. It's survived empires, dark ages, revolutions, the whole shebang. So let's look at how this ancient structure actually builds its timeless trap. The setup, a sweet bribe from Malice. Let's trace this ambitious little insect's journey. So, our queen bee leaves her home in Hymettus and flies all the way up to Mount Olympus. I mean, just picture that whimsical, almost ridiculous image for a moment. You've got this tiny, buzzing insect making a monumental trek to the peak of the mythical world, the literal home of the gods. The story opens with her presenting Jupiter with fresh honey straight from the hive. Now, on the surface, this reads like a totally standard, humble diplomatic mission. She's bringing the absolute best produce her kingdom has to offer to pay her respects. Sounds charming, right? But remember, in the economy of a 118-word story, there is absolutely no room for simple charm. Every single action is a calculated move. Actually, she didn't just fly up and casually ask for a favor. Oh no, she executed a perfect 3-step manipulation. Step 1, butter him up with the fresh honey. Give him something he absolutely loves. Step 2, wait for him to be so overwhelmed by the gift that he completely lets his guard down and offers a reward. And then, step 3, spring the trap with a deadly request. The sheer brilliance here is how she makes Jupiter feel like giving her a gift was his idea in the first place. And boom, here is the exact moment the trap snaps shut. Because Jupiter was so pleased with the honey, the text says he, quote, promised to give her anything she liked to ask for. He basically writes her a divine blank check. This brilliantly illustrates the huge danger of hasty promises made in moments of sheer delight or indulgence. Jupiter, the all-powerful, all-knowing king of the gods, gets a taste of some great honey and literally forgets to read the terms and conditions. He binds himself to an oath without having any clue what this seemingly innocent little bee is actually going to ask for. The complication, a malicious wish. And just like that, the whimsical imagery vanishes, and the story takes a sudden, really violent turn. Just look at the specific, incredibly vindictive wording of her intent. She says she would be very grateful if Jupiter would give stings to the bees, specifically to kill people who robbed him of their honey. Whoa! She doesn't just want a basic defense mechanism. She's not looking for a way to gently shoo humans away. No, she wants lethal vengeance against mankind. She wants the power of life and death all wrapped up in a tiny stinger. The sheer disproportion of this request, asking for the ability to literally murder humans over stolen honey, reveals the absolute toxicity of the grudge she's been carrying. So the crucial point here is the divine dilemma that instantly paralyzes Jupiter. On one hand, the text explicitly states that he loved mankind. So naturally, he's horrified and greatly displeased by the bee's murderous request. But on the other hand, he had given his word. And, in the ancient world, an oath made by a god is an unbreakable law of the universe. He's absolutely 100% bound by his promise. The tension in this tiny story peaks right here. How exactly does an all-powerful being keep... Which brings us to the resolution. A god's clever loophole. Yep, the almighty Jupiter now has to carefully rules lawyer his way out of a verbal contract he made with a bug. And this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict's resolution. See, the queen wants a weapon to kill without consequence, but Jupiter grants that weapon with an ironic, life-ending condition. He links the stinger directly to the user's own vitality. He makes the cost of using the weapon so astronomically high that it essentially defeats the entire purpose of having it in the first place. He literally turns her instrument of vengeance into an instrument of self-destruction. Let's look directly at the ancient text to see exactly how it delivers the fatal blow. Jupiter decrees that whenever a bee stings a man, the sting is left in the wound and the bee dies. It's just perfect, poetic justice. The bee gets exactly what she asked for, the ability to sting and hurt humans, but her new weapon becomes her own death sentence. She cannot inflict pain on humanity without sacrificing her own life in the process. The gift of revenge is granted for sure, but it's inextricably tied to the ultimate consequence. The takeaway: the cost of revenge. The mythological consequences of the bee's fate serve as a super powerful metaphor for us today about the true price of holding a grudge. See, the bee is totally consumed by her desire to hurt those who took from her. But Aesop is showing us that vengeance is never, ever a one-way street. When we seek out tools to inflict pain on others, we're usually the ones who end up paying the ultimate price. So it leaves us with this: who is really punished when we ask for the power to hurt others? When we scheme, when we lay traps and demand retribution, do we ever truly win, or do we just ensure our own destruction? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this changes how you view the tiny fables shaping human behavior.